Good evening, everyone. This is Vic, live again, VC Services, first time live in 2021. I had a bit of a holiday in January, so back now to do some more nosing and tasting. Hopefully you watched all my Advent drams and Christmas and the run up to Christmas. But something unusual tonight. You can see I'm not on my own as usual. I've got a pal. Oh, he's just diving out there. I've got a pal with me, Jim from Outlaw Rum. And we're going to be doing something completely different tonight. No whiskies in sight, unless you look behind me, of course. We're not nosing and tasting whiskies tonight. Jim is going to continue my education in rum. You probably know I'm not a rum drinker, but I'm quickly turning into one because I've been working on a wee project with Jim for, how long have we been doing this for now, Jim? Working together?
2.5 years now, mate.
2.5 years. So I've been working on a wee project with Jim for about 2.5 years, and we're going to be nosing and tasting some rums tonight. But Jim, can you just introduce yourself and maybe tell the viewers, my pals, what you're up to?
So my family and I were on a secondment abroad, and when we got back to the UK, we realized that there wasn't really any decent premium rum available, any what you'd class as sipping rum. So as we resided in the foothills and the glens, just at the, shall we say, in the back garden of the Duffton Elite, we had this rather daft idea of taking premium rum, adding some traditional finishing techniques, and then taking on the establishment in their own backyard, as it were. So what we've done is taken the best blended premium rum, 3, 5, 7, 10-year-old, sometimes a bit of 11 and 12 in there, something that really competes with some of the the best single malts out there. And we're using traditional maturation techniques here in the area of the sort of Cabrac glass, right on the start of the whiskey route, to show rum in its best light. So you and I have been working together for 2 years on this. My colleague Pat's over in Trinidad. He sort of handles that end, dealing directly with our distillery colleagues. And on this end, I set the business up and specifically around maturation and getting the best out of the spirit with your assistance. So
yeah, so you've been taking some pretty good rum over from Trinidad,
yeah,
and then putting it into some whiskey casks and bourbon casks, yeah, and maturing it up in deepest glass.
Deepest, darkest glass.
So doing something a little bit different with that rum,
yeah,
and maturing it for a while in Scotch whiskey casks.
Exactly, but in the traditional method of, big granite wall building, what some people might class as a dunnage warehouse because it's sort of old materials, but it doesn't have the earth floor that some do, but it's a concrete floor, but the walls breathe. So it's very much an environmental reaction with the cask that we pick. And then, seeing how the spirit and the character changes in the spirit, but really just to add some complexity and finish.
Yes, so I've had the privilege and the fun of getting samples from Jim every now and again delivered, or a COVID safety handover in a car park somewhere,
yeah,
and getting lots of these samples, little sample jars, and doing some nosing and tasting and sensory for Jim. So we've been having a great time, haven't we?
It's been a really enjoyable journey, and that was the gamble. We knew what we were getting was premium rum that was, you could bottle it then and try and sell it at that point, but we wanted to add some traditional, really center it around this area, and some very well thought of international traditional techniques of maturing good spirit. And we just wanted to see where the sort of alchemy, or at least the experimental bit, how the spirit would change. Would it be steamrolled by some casks, or would it be the other way around, that the casks for whatever reason in the environment that we have, it just wouldn't. And actually, I've been very surprised how quickly the spirit has added texture, but the rum hasn't been, like I said, steamrolled by it at all. And even when we've done the Isla cast, where it was an experiment, where some common sense would have said, well, it would just be too much for that spirit, but actually, no, it's been very complementary.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a difference there when we were doing the work, myself and Jim, where we've probably got different taste profiles that we like.
Yeah.
And we've had a little bit of sort of to and fro, and especially on the Isla casks.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say it. It's interesting that some casks seem to be having an influence really quickly, and others not so much. So where myself and Jim have been working is trying to blend those casks to produce a rum that's been influenced, but is still a rum.
Yeah. So
it's like you're not trying to make whiskey out of it, are you, Jim?
No. So we are trying to show rum in its best light. We're not trying to turn rum into a whiskey and then sell it as a sort of Scottish only product, but has a little bit more sweetness to it. You know, we're trying to mature the rum to show the complexity and the longer finish. Whereas some rum that some people have tasted, it can be a short finish. It dies off a bit quick. Here this is where I wanted to get to, and the question was, and what the experiment would show is, how long could we make that complexity and finish last without it going the other way? And like you say, then it becomes almost a whiskey or a spirit that is neither rum and it can't be whiskey either. So it was always going to be that sort of seesaw. So the balance was, can we make this spirit into something that is originally on a very good starting point, but we just wanted to add that polish, that finish, and a few different characteristics to really just show rum in its best light possible.
That's good. And Jim's actually done that. So there's a product out now, Outlaw Rum, and what Jim's been doing to kind of educate me over the last couple of months, Jim's got a heap of other rums, and we've been looking at them, nosing them, and tasting them, and it's really helping me to try and educate my palate to help going forward more when we're looking at blending different casks and trying to come up with different expressions of Outlaw Rum. So that's why we did one last week with a bit of a practice, and then we thought we'd just do one live tonight to have a look at some of the rums that are out there, but also to taste the Outlaw Rum as well. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing tonight, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah. So there have been rums that have been available if you knew where to look, but there's a lot more now coming on the market. But in terms of premium rum, you're not going to find it really in the supermarkets. You're still going to have to go to your boutique whiskey and spirit shops, either online or in a particular town that you know of, where they may have an internet sort of presence or not. I mean, bearing in mind it's COVID, so most people are going to have to go and pick it up on the internet. But it's about options, and there have been a few that have been available. But I've seen, even in the 2 years that we've been getting Outlaw Rum up and running and present, to actually be able to produce something that we're happy to bottle and put forward, there's more rums that have been coming available from both South America, a few in the UK, but mostly sort of South Central America, and some of the more, well, the ones from the Caribbean that you may have heard on if you had traveled but had never seen here. Some of those are now becoming more available too. So, you know, your Appleton estates, some of your Angosturas, there's a few others, but, you know, there's more coming out of South America and Central America now, all of which are either amber rum is matured either in bourbon casks, or you can go to the Solera system, which is tiers of casks, and they decant from the bottom tier and then top fill. So it's continually cycling every time there's a bottling going. So there is
Yeah,
more
so
of that.
that was a real education to me, Jim. And when you sent over, I can't remember how many did you send. You send over about 10 or 12 rum
Yeah,
samples. I have to be honest and say I'd never heard of any of them.
right.
But then
Because
I never was a rum drinker, to be honest.
right. Well, we're changing that, and it's all good.
Absolutely. Well, I've got my Outlaw up there now, and I've got my Outlaw dagger as well. If any getting any bother, and
Formal
yes.
event.
So are we gonna just have some fun tonight and maybe go through a few drams
Yeah, I think we'll
and see
start
what
out.
we can taste. See if it might be interesting to see if anyone who's online tells us if they've had these drams or what they think of them as well. So
Yeah.
I'll
So
be
if I give the list of what we'll be trying out, and then we can just talk through them as we go.
Mhm.
Bearing in mind, we've poured them out, so they're airing a little bit to come up to room temperature. But I don't know about you, but I'm at -7 at the minute. But I think we'll be all right. Let's just say we don't need any ice in there.
fire on there.
Yeah, yeah, that'll take about a week to get going, but no worries. It's all right. So for those who've actually drunk rum and been able to get hold of rum, or at least what would be classed as a sipping rum in the UK, a very typical one that people have heard of is one called Diplomatico. So if I get the bottle. So Diplomatico is a rum from Venezuela, but it was always known for having an orangey sort of citrusy taste. So that's the first one. But this is one that's been available, even though it's from Venezuela. So for those who don't know, Venezuela is under a sort of communist regime. So there's people queuing for rice, chicken, toilet paper. It's a country that's got quite a lot of problems. But one of their other than oil, their other export has been, or at least their rum export has been Diplomatico, the most one that you get hold of. So for a lot of people who've tried rum or like a dram of rum, Diplomatico is quite a sort of, I wouldn't say an easy go-to, but it's a natural choice. So
And it is one that would be a sipping rum. You would drink it neat, Jim.
yeah, yeah, all of the rums that you and I have chatted about, because of ourselves trying to show rum in its premium form, it's all sipping rums as it's classed as. It's not one that you naturally add a mixer to, but it's quite traditional as well because of the climate, because it's quite hot, especially where we were in the Caribbean, that you might have one or two neat, but you'd also quite regularly add maybe some ice, but also rum and soda or rum and sparkling water is quite a traditional one, not too different from having a sort of single malt, really.
Yeah, and I think from tasting these rums and from nosing them especially, there are similarities between rum and Scotch.
Yeah,
They're obviously both results of fermentation, distillation, and they've been matured in wood.
yeah,
So they've got that sort of woody elements. They've also got esters and fruitiness, and there's sweetness there as well. But you can tell it's definitely completely different from Scotch.
yeah, and you're right. And I mean, for folk that don't know, a lot of times it will be cane juice or a cane syrup that is utilized, or a very premium form of what do you call it? Not muscovado. Well, muscovado is actually what Guyana used to be called. So that's where a lot of the sugarcane fields originated from to begin with. But yeah, a base form of sugar concentrate. But rum, traditionally in South America and Central America, the pot stills were utilized there as the Scottish single malt industry was doing the same. So the copper pot stills, very much a traditional technique in the Caribbean for distilling spirit, and done the same way. You got the mash tuns. The only thing is that you don't have the shakers to take out the grit and stuff that you would in the barley. You're just pressing this, and it's going straight into the mash tuns to then go and get distilled. But you know, a lot of the rum distilling techniques, they went from just being copper to what was classed as a hybrid, or a sort of continuous column with a copper pot involved. So similar to the single malt and the sort of Scottish whiskey producers, rum distillers, they have a variation and a difference in copper pot still, as well as maybe it is continuous column still, but it might not be. It might be a mix. So there's a few there that really mix about to try and get different characteristics out of their spirits and different versions.
I'm sorry, Jim. I missed about the last 30 seconds. My computer shut down, so I'm hoping we're still broadcasting live.
It says live. It says live still in the top left, mate.
That's good. I panicked. I was gone for about 30 seconds there. So were you saying anything interesting?
I've drank it all, mate. It's done.
I've drank it. Well, I had a little sip while you were chatting there, and that I got a lot of toffee on the nose, but more orangey on the palate. It seemed completely different.
It's very
short finish. Are rums? Do rums normally have a short finish? You know, Scotch, we're expecting a long finish, but not a huge amount left there.
Some, but again, it depends on what casks have been utilized, and it depends on the environment that they've been left. So where we're in Trinidad, it's anywhere from 28 on a cold day, degrees Celsius, to mid 30s up to 40 with 100% humidity.
So on a cold day.
On a cold day. So your bonded warehouse is nowhere near the same sort of fridge-like almost of a bond. Well, ours is fridge freezer at the minute. But so it really depends on the environment it's been in. I wouldn't say it's cooking. It's more like it's steeping in the casks. And depending on how they've aged it, you can get rums that have had a bit of cask aging, which is quite traditional to have a bourbon, but Soleras might use a real mix of wine cask bourbon or a sherry as well. Okay. Others now are going into bourbon and sherry cask, but then doing a double cask bottling. And then it really is dependent on the distillery, on who's doing what. The commercial distilleries in the Caribbean are, you know, the bigger ones. Angostura is probably one of the biggest ones, as is Appleton Estate. And then there's other smaller ones like Foursquared and a few others, but all of them sort of blend rum, because also with that temperature, they get so much loss from the angel share.
Right. So yeah. I'm assuming it would require shorter shorter maturation as well times compared to Scotch, because that maturation is going to be sped up because of the temperature.
Yeah, so it was quite common in the Caribbean where we were, where distillers and maturation companies were losing 15% volume a year just because of the heat.
Wow. Okay.
Which is a factor of 10 more than the UK. So, like, imagine trying to open a 15-year-old cask, and you know there's an echo when you open it. You know,
there's going to be a lot left, is there?
No.
So, is that you on your second one? Or are you still on the first one?
First, but I'm
still on the first. That's quite pleasant, actually, as a sipping dram. It's that nice toffee nose that's kind of fruity.
Yeah, it's a mixture of like a penny toffee with orange.
You
know,
more orangey when you drink it. Really pleasant. I'm still, I'm being educated. I'm still kind of moving towards my scotches, but I wouldn't be unhappy if somebody poured me one of those.
No. And it's sort of horses for courses, but that's a very smooth, quite lightish, but it's that good sort of Satsuma orange peel, and but you are getting some sort of toffee in there, but it does water out. It does come back a little bit, but
It's not got a huge mouthfeel though. It's not bold, you know.
no, no. But a lot of rums from sort of South America, central parts, unless they're getting into the sort of teens or so on, they can feel a little bit light. But
Okay.
again, different variations will mix and match, and hopefully this is one of the few, and we'll go through a few different types, and then even come back to a different rum from the same distillery, and then we can sort of see the differences.
Oh, that's good. I'm noticing my rums here. There's a huge difference in colour across the range.
Yeah, I mean, if you go from the ones we've got now, we've got Diplomatico from Venezuela. We've got a Dictador 12-year-old from Colombia. Then there's a Ron Zacapa 23, which is the Solera system.
That's the really dark one.
Aye, real dark. I'm not sure if that's the molasses or the extra caramel that's being used. Then there's La Hechicera, which is also a Solera system. And then the fifth one is the Black Tot, which is that's not a Solera system. That is it's Caribbean rum, but it's blended, and they have their own blending house in London.
All right, that's quite a light one compared to all the other ones.
Yeah.
Would that indicate that it's younger, or would it indicate that the others have a bit of colouring in them? I'm not sure about the legalities. Is there colouring in these?
I don't know specifically per rum, but when you're selling rum or you're mixing rum, you are allowed to legally add caramel color without.
Right. Okay.
So if you want to make it dark, you can. If you don't,
which is the same when you're making Scotch. You can add E158, of course. Right. Scotch whisky regulations. So nothing illegal about it. Okay.
No. So but it's just with rum. I'm sure someone told me, unless that's a complete armchair quarterback pub tale that isn't true, but get the disclaimers out quick. You're also allowed to add sweeteners, or not sweeteners, but you're allowed to add sugar to the rum to sweeten it. So, Canada, how they're allowed to add maple syrup to their whiskey.
Well, you can add a certain amount of anything to create something like it's something really specific, 9.09% of additives or something like that.
Yeah. So different countries will have certain they are allowed to add certain legal volumes of something to change flavor, or probably another way is to suit the palate of that country.
Yeah.
And consistency.
I wouldn't be surprised. Some of the sweetness that I get on some of these rums, it could be that there's sweetness added, or just rum is inherently sweet. Yeah.
Well, rum because it's sugarcane or from Muscovado, etc. You're always going to get that nose of. You're going to get more caramel to begin with. You're going to get that sugar. So there's an inherent sweetness to it. A lot of people will almost go straight to fudge or toffee or vanilla or something like that they get straight away.
Well, this second one, Jim, that is black treacle.
Yeah.
To me, remember as a kid, you used to get the McGowan's toffee. And they did a sort of black version that I didn't like it. I don't know anybody that liked it. There was a light brown version, which was really nice, and a sort of black version. That smells like the black version. Really like burnt toffee kind of thing.
We used to get the Highland toffee bars because I grew up in the West Country. So it had the tartan on the sides, but with the white bar. And that's what it reminds me of, because you've got that treacle, but you've got some sweetness in there too. It's
a little bit fruity as well. It's not unpleasant. It's unusual, that real burnt treacle. I wonder if it would get that taste as well. Oh yeah, again. It's like coffee as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, you know that the syrupy coffee that you get when you're on like scout camp or something like that. The hickory coffee. That
All
sort of.
right, okay, yeah. Yeah, that's that. Completely different to the first one, though.
And I'm getting something at the end of it. It's like staying on the tongue. It's not. I wouldn't say it's
Yeah,
aniseed.
there's almost
Was that the hickory?
a sulphury kind of finish, burnt note, almost an off note. Almost could be unpleasant, but not quite there. You know what I mean? If it was a bit stronger. I don't know if I like that or not. I'll maybe have to practice a bit more. I think you could get to like that.
You could, but it's from starting with the Diplomatico and it being soft and light.
Oh, it's
This
very
one,
soft and light now, yeah.
yeah. Whereas this one's actually got, we were talking about finish and so on. This
It's
one
got
actually,
a bit more of a finish, this one, yeah.
mm,
Mm. Completely different, though. So, it kind of what I'm learning, what you're teaching me is, after we had our session last week, it is a bit like Scotch. There's a huge range of rums out there
very much so.
for different tastes and different palates, just like Scotch. So,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I love the colour on the next one.
Yeah, this is the Rum Zacapa 23, which is a Solera style.
Sounds like a jazz musician.
Yeah,
Ron
maybe.
Zappa.
So that's a 23 reserve, a Solera Grand Reserva, and it's made from virgin sugarcane honey. And they mature it themselves, so it's not just they're a blending house. They actually, take the spirit and do it themselves, but they use the Solera system. So this is the tiered sort of cask stack where they're taking the bottling from the cask right at the bottom level, and then they fill from the top, and then obviously they're top filling right at the top of the pyramid, if you want.
And is that when they get to the bottom, they never empty the barrel? Is that right?
I think, well, they never fully empty it, but it's more of that they drain, as best they can, pump the barrels dry,
Right.
and then they fill from the layer above into the layer below.
Okay.
And then they keep filling the casks that way, and then it's new spirit going in the uppermost cask. And then that way, the consistency is that you're using the same barrels for the same amount of time, and therefore,
Okay, so it's not like the Solera system, Solera vats in some Scotch expressions where they'll make their expression in a big vat, bottle half of it,
no,
and make up another expression on top of the old one. So there's always some kind of consistency there. It's a different system.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, look at the colour on that, folks.
Dark, isn't it?
That is dark. And I think we all know, like in the whiskey world, there are some perceptions that darker is better. So I'm not sure if it's that in the rum world as well. But that looks special, and it's very woody. Woody with a citrus note as well, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting like almost like a kirsch or like a cherry liqueur or something.
Oh, yeah, aye. It's a really weird sensation, this, because I'm getting like on one hand, an earthy, musty kind of notes, and on the other hand, really quite fresh. Sort of high notes, top notes. That's weird.
Yeah, you're getting like good warehouse smells on that.
Yeah, that sort of musty smell is like a Dunwich warehouse. You can smell the wood effect there. And I'm not a great lover of real wood expressions in my drinks. I like kind of younger spirits compared to older ones. I don't like too much of a woody effect, but that's quite nice. See if I can get it in the taste. Oh, that's really sweet and orangey. Raisins as well. But then it's gone. It's very, very smooth, very pleasant. But
You get a little
I'm
bit
not getting a lot of finishes at all.
getting a little bit of spice on the side of the tongue right at the end. But yeah, it's there at the beginning, and it's your raisins and your Christmas cake, and then it's not like it. I'm still getting it on the tongue, so it's not as light as the Diplomatico, but.
Look, I've just gone back to the Diplomatico, and that's just toffee. It's interesting if you smell them relative to each other, they change. Oh, wow! Burnt treacle on the Dictador, nice toffee on the Diplomatico, and very strong wood. 3 completely different rums. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What's your favourite out of those 3 then, Jim?
I'd say it's between the Zacapa and the Diplomatico. Only because the Ron Zacapa, even though it's sweet and it's got the same amount of finish as the Diplomatico, as in length of time, like 5 to 8 seconds, but you're getting a little bit more. You're getting, like you say, it's almost like liqueur oranges and liqueur cherry almost. And then, but you do get some oak in there on the nose, but I'm not getting that on the taste at all.
No, the taste for me is very sweet, and I'm kind of getting sweetness on the lips with that Ron Zacapa. It's a candy flossy.
Almost like candy apple. Or toffee apple, as we call it.
There's that. I hadn't got the spiciness before, but I just had a drink of water and cleansed my palate, and the spicy, a bit of spicy notes in the tongue there.
Yeah.
I did notice. I had a look at a look online before we came on, because I'm a great fan of my flavour wheels for whiskey.
Yeah.
And I noticed there's quite a few flavour wheels for rum as well now.
Okay.
And they have kind of similar for Scotch, but they had a spicy section as well. And there is that bite, yes, of spice on the tongue.
Yeah, that one's got the longer finish on the Ron Zacapa is definitely, for me, you're just getting at the side of the tongue and the top of the tongue. It's baking spice.
Is that one stronger in alcohol, Jim? That Ron Zacapa? Because I can feel a little bit going down. I don't know if it's extra.
40%, mate.
All right. It feels like it's got more alcohol in it, that one.
Yeah. No, the first 3 have all been at 40.
Right. Interesting.
Right.
So how do you pronounce this 4th one?
Well, mate, I'm going to get it wrong. I haven't had time to look up online and try and do a Google Translate. So anyone who's linked to this company, please don't take it as an insult. I think it's called La Hechicera.
La Hechicera. Okay.
I think so. But again, it's another Solera system.
Another one from Colombia. Or is this the first one from Colombia?
No, the Dictador was also Colombian.
Right.
So Dictador, the 12-year-old, bring it back, Ashley, is the 12-year-old. That's Colombian. The Diplomatic is Venezuelan, and the Ron Zacapa is Guatemala.
Right.
Although the story, I think, from Ron Zacapa was they were having a few issues. I can't remember if it was Castro or not, but they legged it from Cuba to Guatemala. So they took their Cuban style of doing the rum, legged it, and then
and their money.
Yeah, got to have Dodge before anyway. Before
got out before they were.
Yeah. So this one here is a mixture of 12 to 21-year-old rum, but in the Solera style.
Okay.
So again, you've got the system of casks, and they fill from one to the other, and therefore mixing it all the time. I don't think they drain all of it. There is sort of some parent rum in there, like in the so you've got this continuous rum that they're changing, adding to, so the consistency is there.
There's not as much on the nose as the previous ones. There's nothing distinctive there, is there?
No, it's light, but it's fresh.
Very light and fresh. Whereas you can nose the other ones and say wood, dark treacle, toffee. There's nothing really bouncing out on this one. Kind of alcohol for me.
Bit of green apple or something, but that's about it.
Yeah, maybe a touch of sort of menthol or mint. Yeah, a little bit of fruitiness, pears maybe. But again, nothing unpleasant, which is always a good start. That's very smooth. Toffee notes, orangey, and then gone. No finish for me.
No,
not a bit of sweetness maybe.
Still sort of hanging around there, but I'm getting like stewed dark fruits, like
all right,
apricot, maybe sort of like mixed peel that you'd use in baking. You know, you're still looking down that rich fruit cake sort of.
I'm getting a bit more woodiness on the nose as I'm delving in there, and you'd expect that if it's 12 to 21, you'd expect some more wood on it, and a little bit of vanilla maybe on the palate. But not as bold or as outstanding as maybe the Dictador and the Zone Ronza Kappa, but quite pleasant, isn't it?
Yeah, that one for me, it's got a mixture of fruits on there, but like you say, there's a bit of creaminess on the end. And you're still getting that vanilla at the front. I'd say, and the aftertaste is probably, well, I've got a little bit more there as well. So it sort of goes and comes back a little bit.
But you probably, I mean, again, I keep saying it, I'm no expert. You wouldn't be topping these up with Coke, though, would you?
No. I mean, and that's why, hopefully this is, like I mentioned before, first of a number of sessions, all sort of talk about different rums from different areas and just go through their profile, because there is premium rum out there, but you have to dig for it a bit still.
Right.
But some of your independent shops, we've dealt a lot with Aberdeen Whiskey Shop, companies in Aberdeenshire, it's in Speyside Whiskey, Speyside Larder, it's in, or our product is in, the Inverurie Whiskey Shop down at Whiskey Hour. There's Barrels and Botanicals, and all of them are starting now where people are getting interested in rum, but not just as an alternative to gin.
Right.
There's that bit where a lot of people are now pushing rum as the new gin, but there's plenty of good rum out there that is easily comparable to some of the single malts and is cherished in its area as a good single malt is in Scotland. So,
so you think most of it is bought and used as a mixer then at the moment?
Some of it, well, let's just say the bulk of it, but then people are looking at the spiced rum and pushing that. Some of it is rum that's come and maybe has had 2-3 years maturation in a cask. Other stuff will be straight out the still. There's a real mix coming into the UK now, and then there's others that are taking in rum from the Caribbean or parts of South America, but then finishing it here. But that won't be available probably for a few years. And then you've got companies like Plantation that take, rum and have been doing for probably 2 decades nearly, but they then finish it in casks in France. So it will say it's Trinidad or it's wherever it's from, but they are releases from casks that they have set up in their warehouse in France. So there's a few companies out there with their own version of it, and that's probably why there's going to be quite a big range in nose and taste, because you're going to get the very young ones that have done maturation in the Caribbean in these very intense sort of environmental conditions, where you could almost argue that it's matured quicker. And therefore the age statement, well, it might say 3 or 5 years, but is it really comparable to us? And then you've got others that will have been taken straight as spirit from the still, maybe some finishing, and then will be finished elsewhere, like what we're doing. But we're trying to show, sort of with traditional techniques, that extra complexity that we can do. So.
Yeah. So this last one, well, before the flagship, before Outlaw, Black Tot, that's slightly different one as well, is it?
So this is one from the UK. These are a group that have been up and running since about 2012. They have very much an ethos of former Royal Navy allegiance, as well as some historic. So the Black Tot was what was given out to folk in the Navy, and only stopped in the sort of, I think was it 70s or 80s? I can't remember. I'd be lying if I said. So they were still drinking rum on the warships well up until sort of towards the end of the last century. But the guys down in London who, they're celebrating that relationship, and they've been up and running since, like I said, 2012. But they take in rum, and I believe they blend it in their own establishment down in London. But they've been around for a little while now, and they do quite well in, well, quite a few places, because I've seen them in Holland, Belgium, a few other countries.
Right. Well, it's very light compared to some that we've had already, and it does smell a bit younger.
Because you get that alcohol on the nose, don't you?
Yeah, it smells a little, in terms of what we've had before, a touch immature. There's that alcohol-y, solventy smell, and not a huge amount of character. No wood character, anyway.
No.
What a taste.
That's the most powerful out of the 5 so far.
In terms of mouthfeel and finish, I think that's a sign of its youth, Jim. It's not rough, but it's got a bit of a kick to it, and a bit of a toffee and orangey toffee finish.
So this one's 46%.
Okay, so it's a little bit stronger then as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on it, saying it was its youth. So it's got the extra alcohol as well.
Yeah.
But it seems a little bit lacking in boldness and character compared to some of the other ones. But not bad.
No, it's funny because it's very bold. There's a bit of like funkiness there on the taste, but it does taper off and water out, very similar to the other.
Yeah. It's got the most tongue tingle, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Down the sides for me there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting any spiciness there, but you, like you say, you get that
tingly. I don't think this would be high up on my list of favourites out of those. But again, it's a different type of product. Good for the market, I suppose.
It's like anything else. You don't want to do what everyone else is doing.
Absolutely.
But the other thing that they're very good at is that, you know, they have this main product, their flagship, as it were, the Black Tot, and then they've got two other expressions when I looked out for them, and they're aged rums,
Right.
but very high end on price bracket. So they have their flagship, and then they've obviously got something else. But I'm not going to be able to sample all of them. And just for this exercise, it's really just sort of showing what's about for round about the 40 to 60 pound mark.
And these are all, like you say, these are all roughly the same kind of price, Jim, that kind of market. Is that right?
Yeah, sort of 40 up to about, round about 40 up to, 55-ish.
Okay.
So all of them are in that sort of price bracket. Obviously, there might be a deal somewhere on one website, or there's other things. They're all sort of falling into that price bracket of almost what you'd spend on like a single malt.
Single malt, aye. Okay. But there is an Outlaw Rum out there.
There is.
There is. And I have to say, not just because I've been working with you, I've told you this, I love the bottle.
Thank you.
I mean, I was up at the warehouse. Well, I can't remember when it was. It seemed to be ages ago now, before anything was bottled. And I asked Jim for a couple of these empty bottles because they just looked so gorgeous. Got the dagger and that on it. So I've got a couple of empty bottles somewhere. But I've got my full bottles now. But this is a blend, Jim, isn't it? We've got a few different casks in there.
So when we were doing the media for the website, if you remember, where I was driver and you were doing the tasting and the royal nosing, that was when we were working out the ratios of what we've got. So our casks, we've got, at the minute, we've got 4 different Isla casks on the deck. We've got 2 different versions of bourbon cask. We have one style of Highland cask that's working really well for us. So I'm probably just going to stick with that one. And then Speyside, we've got 2 different types at the minute, but that's increasing in number because our next delivery, snow depending, of course, will be towards the end of this month. So,
I think we've said it already. It's fascinating how quickly you can get differentiation with that rum from the different casks. Obviously, you get a huge differentiation in the Isla ones.
Yeah.
But even with the various Isla ones, we're seeing a variety in the rum coming out after some maturation here. But we're seeing differences as well in the bourbons and the Speysides and the Highlands, and also in the size of casks. It's having an impact on it as well. So there's going to be so much to blend from to produce the flagship expressions, isn't it?
Exactly. So for the flagship, we'll stick with our ratio of Speyside, Highland, and Bourbon, and they're selective casks, so we know what those are going to be going forward, probably for the foreseeable. But what it does open out to is not just single cask versions like the first Isla release we did, but we'll have up to 5 or 6 different Isla cask versions. But it also lends itself to, and we could probably break here that we're probably going to be doing a double cask version of Speyside and Highland together later on at the end of the summer, because that maturation has possibly taken the longest, but when together they really are superb.
Yeah, we had a little look at that last week, and that was I really enjoyed that little blend we did. That was very tasty, very tasty. So there's going to be lots of different stuff coming out, but it just shows, for me, it just shows the value of the wood and the different final expressions you can make, be it rum, be it Scotch, be it whatever, putting it in different types of wood or different types of oak and previous contents makes a huge difference to the final product.
Yeah.
So when we made this blend, we really could have made it more whiskey-ish, but we decided against that, didn't we?
Yeah. And some of well, I wouldn't say criticism, but there have been a few people who said, there should have been bolder notes. You've smoothed it out a bit too much, or some of the, but it's taking some of the complexity that you can get with a good single malt cask, which will change the character, nose, and taste a bit, but adds into it far more. So we don't lose the vanilla, we don't lose the muscovado, we don't lose any of the sort of mid-range finish, but what we end up with is some spice. It accentuates some of the orangey nature. We still get the Christmas fruits coming in, the Christmas cake. And also on the nose, it's still bold and fresh. And you're not just getting one note, you're still getting a mixture.
Yeah. What it does for me is almost gives it a width of character. And also makes it more bold on the nose and the palate. But there's just that little bit more going on.
Yeah.
Getting from the whiskey casks that is making it that little bit different. But even to my uneducated rum palate, it's still rum.
Yeah.
But sweet and fruity. That orange is for me tonight, Jim. Really. And it's interesting. It's like most of these things. Every time I smell them, they're a little bit different.
Right.
But I'm getting that orange note tonight that's really enjoyable, and a more character on the palate, a bit bolder and wider.
It's like on a very ripe, not a satsuma, but like on a big, ripe orange straight from the tree, and you peel it and you get that zest.
That's lovely. And you've got one other out as well. You've got an Islay one out at the moment, which, let's be honest, is not my favourite rum. But some folk are loving peat in their rum. Loving that phenol flavour in their rum.
And it's funny because a lot for you it was Marmite. One minute it was, oh yeah, I think I like this, but I'm not, and it would be a mixture of both. But folk who have, even given it as presents have said, oh, can we get some more? Because that really was something else. And it's not just folk who like Islay finished whiskies, because there's that much going on, and the finish goes on for between 3 and 5 minutes.
It does, and we've tasted some samples from the various Islay casks that's maturing at the moment, and there's that one cask that I do really like, whether it's a different style of peat or a different level in the rum, it just hits the spot.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones, it doesn't do it for me, and I've spoken to a few of my mates, and it's that just doesn't sound palatable to where do I get a bottle.
Yeah.
So it is a Marmite-y kind of thing. You love it or hate it, I think.
It can be, but what will be interesting is, especially, the next bottling will be middle to end of March. And that's from a distillery in Islay that isn't renowned for being the smokiest or the peatiest.
Yeah.
But you're still getting the smoke there and maybe a bit of ash, but it's different. It's not as heavy, shall we say? It's not as strong. But then the one that you particularly like is actually of European wood. It's European oak, and has had, wine in there previously. So, but yet still had and finished Islay whiskey in it. So that takes longer because of the European oak, because the grain on it, it's not renowned for finishing as quick, but it does add different layers to the rum.
That's it. I mean, we know that it'll put in different relative amounts of compounds compared to the American oak. So it'll give it it might give it a little bit more of a sort of tannic mouthfeel, a little bit more drier. But it's great fun finding out, isn't it, Jim? It's a great It's a great job if you can get it.
I'll leave that to the experts, but for me, it's been a real adventure, and something that you never would have foreseen it, but I saw the gap and I thought this has really got legs on it. And at every opportunity it's had to sort of fall over, it's been thumbs up. It's been good.
Well, the proof of the pudding is you've got it in the bottle, you've got it on the shelves. Across Scotland, you've got it in Singapore. So, but the guys can buy it up here, can't they? It's it's out there, and like you say, in certain shops.
And now with Google as well, if you ping in like Outlaw Rum, we're still finishing our process, shall we say, with the council. So I'm allowed to sell when I have an occasional license, but what I'll do is I will distribute when we have the occasional license, which I'll be getting another one in the next week or so. And then that'll keep us going, because hopefully we'll be all certified via the council. And that's really just to be able to sell to the public, even though the public aren't allowed anywhere near us. But otherwise, if you type in Outlaw Rum, you can buy from all the shops that I mentioned before, in Aberdeenshire. And there's also, the really good whiskey company. So there's versions available and everybody's got stock. Either that or there are the hyperlinks on the website. So it's all, it's a very interesting journey, and it's been great so far. And the response from people has been very kind and very complimentary. And we even got our first fan letter. It was a fountain pen handwritten letter from a lady in Aberdeen in her mid-80s who she was a diehard Watson's fan, and Watson's rum, and that's kind of a traditional drink for some people.
Okay.
And she tried this one instead, and she said, "I'm never going back to Watson's. You've absolutely clobbered it."
Well, that's good.
And in this day and age of not writing a thing for like months or years, it was just very, very sweet for someone to.
Well, that's great kind of feedback that she's going to buy a second bottle, because I've said this to you before, Jim, that anybody can sell the first bottle of spirits with good marketing and a fancy bottle and a good label and a great website.
Yeah.
But you have to put good product in it to sell that second bottle.
Oh yeah. And
so that's good that she's coming back. And I've seen some great reviews, especially on I think, is it the Aberdeen Whiskey Shop?
Yeah, we got Spirit of the Year, and the one that you're still not sure about, they said, they said it absolutely, it didn't blow their socks off, but they were very, very complimentary about it, and they had a lot of custom going through it. And it's funny because quite a few of my mates some of them have had digestive issues with drinking whiskey and have gone to rum,
right?
But others, because rum and how we finished it, they understand that we're not pitching this as something that you drink with a mixer. This is sipping rum, and something that should be almost like a present or a gift. It's something that's a compliment to be given. So a few folk I knew, we were chatting about it, and when they've gone out and bought a bottle for a present and tried it over Christmas or New Year or a birthday, immediately they're saying, where can we get another one, because that was really good. I'm very flattered, and I think myself.
I'm enjoying that final drum tonight. That's a nice one. Really good. So so that's great, Jim. So that's 6 drums we've had. It's probably my bedtime now. That would well, I haven't completed them all. I was going to say that would technically be a binge session, but we can get away with it because it's for scientific purposes. So we've been testing it. And,
it is. It's research. Very research. Medical.
I've enjoyed my little bit of education that you gave me last week and then tonight, because, like I said, rum not on my radar at all. And if it had been, it would have been to make a cocktail, or to top up with Coke. But the majority of those, I could have, would have enjoyed drinking on their own.
Yeah.
And especially the Outlaw with that little bit more in it is very pleasant. So excellent.
Yeah, I keep getting that coming back to me. You know, it doesn't completely die out, but then it keeps coming back and repeating.
Yeah, I'm getting that sort of sweet orangey tonight. I'm really enjoying it. So that's nice. Excellent. So we'll maybe do this again sometime, Jim.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is probably aim for sort of next month. Maybe we'll do a few more, but we won't do the same ones again. And we'll start with another sort of staple that you could get hold of, similar to the Diplomático, which was Santa Teresa 1796, which is another rum from Venezuela. But again, you know, that with sort of 4 accompanied ones, and then we'll carry on. And then
excellent.
That'd be
great.
That
was good fun. So is it back to trying to dig out the Land Rover tomorrow?
No, the Land Rover's safe right now. The van, though, looks like someone's garden shed that's just had all of the roof snow from the house dump on top of it.
Right.
So we've got about 3 to 4 foot line at the minute, depending on where you go. And with the ploughing, just to get access out your driveway, the walls of snow are up to 4.5, 5 foot.
No, well, we had our first sort of significant snowfall last night, and we probably had a whopping 2 inches on the ground this morning. But then we're on the Murray Riviera, the Riviera of the North, so we don't get a lot of snow here. But we look inland, and you can see the snow from where we are as the hills start.
Well, you'd see the bends.
You're quite high up, aren't you? Sorry?
Which bends do you see from where you? It's not Rinnis, is it?
Yeah, we can see Ben Rinnis and across to Ben Hill at Bucky and Ben Rinnis, and then of course we look across the water. We've got Glen Wivis all the way up to Morven, so we can see everywhere's got snow. Apart from us, it was interesting. About 2 years ago, they showed a satellite image of Scotland, and it was completely white, apart from a tiny green bit where we were. So we're quite fortunate in that we don't get a lot of snow. So
no.
Oh well. So thanks for joining me, Jim. That was great. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that. That's my first live one this year. So since I did my daily ones at Christmas, I took some time off. So thanks for joining us, everyone. If you've got any comments, please fire them into us. If you want to hear anything else about Outlaw Rum, send a text in or whatever, and I'll get it to Jim. And because I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot more work together in the future. So thanks for joining us, everyone. I'll see you again soon. Slàinte mhath. Cheers, Jim.
Slàinte mhath, mate. Take care.
Cheers. Bye now.